Hi, this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services Talking Business and our Sons of the American Legion Radio Veterans Interview Series. I'm in my home office today in White Plains, New York, and have a chance to talk to a veteran of the United States Army and an executive in the insurance industry, and that is Steve Chaloult. And Steve, good to see you today. How are you doing?
Ken, thanks for having me on. I'm doing well in this turbulent time. I think we're all counting our blessings.
Yeah. Maybe to start, just tell us, how is you work for a division of Marsh McLennan, the Trion agency, director of sales. How has the last 4 months been for you?
You know, it's been difficult. It's been rewarding. It's been it's been tough, but we're making a lot of progress on a day-to-day basis. A lot of our producers are having to change the way that they operate, the way that they approach companies, because the chaos and the times are definitely making it difficult to approach companies in a compassionate way, because you want to be able to provide services, but you want to do it in a way that is sensitive to the current times and their needs. So we talk a lot about compassionate consulting, because we think that the things that we bring to the table could definitely help a company, but we have to do it in a real respectful way.
How is it that you work on both sales, perhaps talking to new customers, but also communicating with existing customers? So many new technologies have been applied, video conferencing like we're doing today. But I always believe in picking up the phone and talking to people. What are some of the ways that you're staying in touch with your clients and your prospects?
You know, it's a great question. And if I had a crystal ball to how I could get through or talk to most of our prospects or customers, I'd probably be in a much better situation with that. But I'll tell you, right now, it's very difficult to interact via email because the volume of email has just gone up exponentially. So, with us being sequestered to our homes or, out of the office, I think we're working longer. I think we're working harder. And the number of touch points that are going out there, I think some companies are actually touching just for the sake of everybody else is sending a COVID checklist, and we need to do one also, which is really filling up people's inboxes. So we're trying to think of different ways to, have interactions, whether it be through LinkedIn, whether it be through conference calls, whether it be through phone calls. We're trying to find that right mix. But also be respectful of the downtime that we want to be able to make sure that our prospects and customers have. So, and that's just really done through good old-fashioned listening and feedback. They'll tell us if they're ready to talk. They'll tell us if they're not, and we got to be respectful of that. And we'll move on and talk to the next customer. The big concern right now is that customers are generally having a very myopic view of a three to 4 week window is where they're looking, but the world is moving at such a rapid pace that 2021 is going to be here very rapidly. And if we're not looking towards that, it's going to catch us all by surprise. And financially, especially in the insurance world, financially with the price of, and we do employee benefits, with the price of employee benefits skyrocketing, if you're not looking and planning ahead, you're going to get caught with maybe a double-digit increase. So we're trying to keep our customers focused on the future, but also sensitive to today, and that's a heck of a balance that we're trying to play with.
That's very good advice. Now, you and I met because you're a graduate of the United States Military Academy, class of '92. You studied economics, and you were a varsity football player there at West Point. Tell us a little bit about first, maybe the academic side of West Point. What did you learn? What did you I always say, what did you learn by learning to manage so many different challenges that they offer you at West Point?
Yeah, it's kind of a unique situation. Number one, you don't know really how difficult you have it because everybody else around you is doing the same thing and you're just kind of getting through it and you're doing it. It wasn't until after the fact when, I was carrying 21 credit hours during my senior season, right? So to get an economics degree, I had to overload a little bit. And the only time I could do the classes that I could was in season as a senior. Didn't know that was, 21 credit hours today, most college football players are carrying 12 or maybe 15 if they're trying to stretch themselves. But you just get up, you do it. You don't sleep a lot, but you make it happen. The biggest lesson I think getting out of, and I'd hate to let any of my tactical officers or professors know this, but the biggest lessons that I got out of this was learning what was important, what to study, and what you could possibly take some risk on. So risk management in your own academic career was huge, where you're, saying, all right, I can blow off this lesson today to do these other lessons because that test is coming quicker. And if you could manage that really well, you could get through. And those who didn't manage it as well had a difficult time and were, got caught up, and some of them didn't make it through. So it was a real good exercise on time management, priority management, and maybe just a little bit of luck.
And you played for two extraordinary football coaches, Jim Young, who's a Hall of Famer, and Bob Sutton, who's been still coaching in the NFL, coach for the Jets and for the Kansas City Chiefs just recently. What did you learn from those two extraordinary coaches?
It was, Coach Young was an incredible taskmaster in terms of efficiency. The speed at which he ran his practices, the repetition that we had to get because we were so much less talented than any other teams we were going to play, that we were only going to beat them through repetition and knowing our assignments and running through the plays so many times that we were actually flowing through memory and we're not reacting. We were actually, it was so inbred that we were maybe a half step faster than our opponents because they were reacting versus just having the natural feel of what was going on. And we knew that if we were better prepared than everybody else, and we hit like the Dickens when we played Alabama in the Sun Bowl, we were talking with some of the Alabama players, and we were still hitting even bowl week. I mean, hard and often, and they thought we were crazy. But that was their only chance that we had, and we almost beat Alabama in that game. Coach Young was about repetition, and then Coach Sutton, kind of grew up through that system, and he was making that adjustment and carried on that torch. And I think he hit his own stride with the Independence Bowl year and the things that he did there, and I've been following his career ever since. Great coach, never played football, and it was a great coach and a great mentor.
Very good. Now let's we always like to hear from veterans about some of the places they served and some of their experiences during your military service. You were an officer in the U.S. Army after West Point. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
So I was fortunate enough to go to flight school, and while I was at flight school, I did well enough to graduate first in my class, and I got to choose the aircraft that I wanted to fly, and I chose to fly fixed wing and to go the military intelligence route to fly spy planes. So I got to fly helicopters in flight school, and then went to the MI flight school portion of it, and then learned how to fly the RC-12, which was a signal intelligence aircraft. I got stationed in Korea in Fort Hood, Texas, flew a lot of missions, and had the opportunity to do what was one of my life dreams, was to be an aviator, be a pilot, and I got to do that and enjoyed every minute of it.
So at that point in the Army, you still had fixed wing aircraft that you were eligible to fly?
Correct. Yeah, they still do today. They had multiple airframes that we could fly, and not known that the pure number of fixed wing aircraft that are in the Army. You would think that's Air Force, but it's not.
Well, the Army's got its own fleet of ships too for transport. We've seen too, a lot of resources in the U.S. Army. Tell us a little bit about transition for you. something that we talk with veterans all the time about. It's harder than they think when they leave the military, but they offer a lot of resources and experience and expertise to employers. What was it like for you? I know you had an early experience at IBM.
Yeah, I think coming out of the military, the best lesson is to start as early as possible and start setting goals for yourself and what you're trying to accomplish when you get out of the military. It's a good time to get realistic and start listing out all of the skill sets and all of the unique things that you did in the military, and then grab one of your friends that have already gotten out, if you're a West Point or somebody else from the military, grab them and who's out in the civilian sector and say, all right, translate this to me to civilian speak. So you can take something where you're in the S3 shop and that's operations. So, that translates to something in operations or COO of a company. So you start translating that over. Get that resume up to speed, and then don't be afraid to use resources to build your network. Networking is going to be key. It's so much easier to find a job from somebody who you've worked with before in the military that you speak the same language with. They can help you. There are a lot of companies out there that are very, very military centric. That you can take like the ISABR-D, which is the Service Academy Resource Directory Guide. Get a hold of that, take a look. I would be hard pressed to find many people in that book that if you reached out to them and say, hey, I'm getting out of the military, I need your advice. Can I get 10 minutes of your time for a virtual cup of coffee? They'll take that meeting. Even if you didn't go to the academy, you're an officer and enlisted. Be bold enough to ask. Most of the time, people will be honored that you thought of them and will take time to sit with you and talk with you. And they can help guide you. And once they hear what your passion is, they probably have somebody you need to talk to. Somebody will come to me, I'll say, is this what is it that you want to do? And I'll say, you know what, call this guy, tell him that Steve sent you, and I'll make a pre-call, and that'll start them down a path to see that there are opportunities. A lot of it's got to be mental, right? So if you go into it thinking that, oh my God, this is a bridge too far, you're going to become desperate. And once you're desperate, you're going to make bad decisions. So the more you talk to people, the more opportunities you see, the clearer your mind is. And then the more relaxed and the better you're going to be interviewing, the better you're going to be when you go out there, and things will fall into place. So if you prepare, you do the right things, you talk to the right people, it will start unfolding out front of your eyes. If you wait and you don't do those things and you start getting tense and tight, it's going to be tough.
And you went and got 2 master's degrees, and I noticed that in quite a few military careers is continuing to advance education as officers or as NCOs. And you received both an MBA and then later a master's degree from George Washington University. Tell us a little bit about what you learned from those experiences.
So my MBA, I actually got my MBA while I was still in the military, utilizing the tuition program that they had at the time. And if you are in a position to do that, and they have some phenomenal GI programs after the fact, well, they'll send you to school full time for a much reduced rate or even for free. Got to take advantage of it. And don't be caught up in the fact that you haven't been in school for a while, or you're feeling like, I'm not going to be able to make that happen. You will. Just your abilities and your grit and your fortitude is going to get you through it. And so if you can take advantage of those programs, take advantage of it. I did to get my MBA, and then while I was in the civilian sector, they sent me to school to be to get a graduate degree in project management. So I added that on to that. I think fortunately what the military does for you sometimes, a lot of the time, I never had to pay for. I'm in 2 master's degree and undergrad flight school, never had to pay for any of it for the most part. So very, very fortunate that. But if your eyes are open and you take the advantages and things that come forth to you, and it's not unfair advantage, it's just an advantage because you're serving and you're doing the right things, it'll guide you through where you need to be. And that's what ended up happening for me.
And you moved through several companies after your Army experience, IBM, and got insurance experience at Graham Company. And then you're also been an owner of a business, BGKT Enterprises, which I know is a way you remember somebody who's very important and special in your academy career. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, BGKT is short for Big Cat. That's a nickname that I received while I was at the academy from my roommate. I was a lineman. I was a big lineman at the time, the first 300-pound lineman, and I was close to 6'6" and 325 pounds. But when I played ping pong, my roommate said that I looked like a big cat because I could move. And we kind of laughed about that. And soon thereafter, he was on a training exercise during the summer, and he was taken from us, struck by lightning. And his name was Joel Krafzig, and that name, every time somebody calls me Big Cat, which all my friends and even my daughter, who's 4 years old, calls me the Big Cat. It's an honor and tribute to Joel and the life he lived, and the life we wish he could have lived with us after. And so I named my holding company after that nickname, so that I can continue to honor him and our relationship.
Well, we know of the dangers of military life in the historical research that I've been involved with in our Sons of the American Legion projects, and we remember the service of your roommate with great respect. You've been both worked for companies, an entrepreneur, and now director of sales and part of Marsh McLennan. How do you balance that kind of an entrepreneurial interest with working in the framework of a big corporation?
Yeah, it's interesting. It is a balancing act. Just as recent as March of 19, I had sold a company that I had, and I was trying to figure out what my next chapter of my life was going to be. I worked in insurance, and then I got out of insurance and bought a company in services. It was a home servicing or a commercial servicing. We did epoxy floors. I bought it and built it over 6 years, and then I sold it. And I was wondering what I was going to do, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine who I served with at the last insurance company I was at, and he asked me to come and consult here at Trion, and I did. And then after about 5 months, he said, "We're not letting you leave, so here's an offer." And it was an offer that I needed to take, and so I continued to work here. But concurrently, I also was opening a hyper wellness company where we do. We have 10 modalities: IV drip, cryotherapy, compression, infrared sauna. We have a number of different modalities that help people live their lives to the fullest, because they're not having the aches and pains and the things that hold people back as they get older. So they want you to feel as well as you can feel. It's kind of a proactive look on life, and I am the poster child for somebody who needs it. I've got bad knees, got bad ankles, bad shoulders, and I use a lot of our services so I can feel better. So I've got a great management team that takes care of all of that portion of it, while I stay here and I try to drive sales for this great company. So I still have my foot in the entrepreneurial side of it, but my day-to-day is here, managing this insurance group.
Very good. Now, I promised we would talk a little bit of football today, and you were playing for West Point in the late 80s, early 90s. What were some of the highlights for you?
There was some of the great things in the class of 91 team that we played in 90. Mike Mayweather, Calvin Cass were our running backs. We had an outstanding, offensive line, and we had great running backs and quarterback. We had, instilled our will on a lot of teams that year. And it was just the most fun I'd ever had playing football, because we knew where the ball was going to go. The opponent, we didn't know huddle. They figured it out about the third series. They knew which way the ball was going, because we use an odd even system. It wasn't rocket science. But they knew they couldn't stop it. And that type of satisfaction that we had was just, it's amazing to beat some players and beat teams, but to be able to do that with them knowing where the play is going was just a great feeling, because we executed so very tightly. And that was the last year of Coach Young's season. So that stands out. And then, just the brotherhood that you create and you are a part of that never changes. I mean, on a daily basis, we touch base. And this evening, I'm heading over to a football brother's house because his daughter graduated from high school. So, I mean, we stay tight. We're confidants. We help each other out. We're there for each other. That whole experience is something you can't replace. And I think it's a little bit tighter and stronger at the academies, but especially at West Point.
And certainly, Jeff Monken has brought a tremendous era to West Point, especially the last 4 seasons. When you visit with Coach Monken and observe his teams, what do you see as reasons they've had success?
That's an interesting question, and I can probably sum it up in one vignette, and that being his first season. They were having a scrimmage during spring ball down at the prep school. And I went over to watch the scrimmage, and I was watching how things were going. A player ran off the field and exited around the 10-yard line. He stopped practice and had the player run back on the field from the 10-yard line, and then had him exit past the 25 where you're supposed to exit the field. That level of detail, that attention to detail, that discipline is something that he brings and instills on a daily basis with the team to win the fourth quarter, to attack and do things the right way. I think we lacked that a little bit prior to him, and I think he's turned that tide, and the success has been evident. It didn't come easy. I mean, we had a tough year when he first came on board, but the incremental success and improvement was evident. And then the buy-in came, and then we're off to the races. So he's absolutely the right guy for the job. And I love his style, and I respect the heck out of him as a human being.
No, it's been great. I have the fortune to talk with Coach Monken, do an interview most weeks during the season, and he is very impressive the way he can lead. I would say the 100 people that are on the team, the coaches, the trainers, the managers. He keeps everybody going in exactly the right direction all the time. And it's really a pleasure to see and to be able to cover the team these past 6 years. And talking with Steve Chaloult, who is a Director of Sales at Trion Group, a Marsh McLennan agency, graduate of the United States Military Academy, and former Army football player. Do you have a final thought today for us? Perhaps something about what you learned playing football that has helped you in your business career?
It is just summed up with the times of today, right? And it's the resilience, the fight, the never say die type attitude. Very close friends with Chuck Schretzman, who's fighting on a daily basis with ALS. Friends with Greg Gadsden, who lost his legs in battle. We're working through COVID right now. Businesses are taking it on the chin. Lives are being disrupted. Lives are being turned upside down. Coach Young had a snippet out of a poem that said, "I lay me down to bleed for a while, for I am bleeding, but I am not slain, and I will rise to fight with you again." I say that every day, multiple times a day, because of the inspiration of the people around me and the things that Greg and Chuck and everybody overcomes, that my issues and my problems are very small in comparison. And then I just got to fight, and I got to rise on a daily basis. And that's what Army football taught me.
Absolutely. I've had the pleasure of meeting both Colonel Gadsden and Chuck Schretzman, and they are inspirational figures, great Americans, great graduates of West Point. And Steve Chaloult, great to talk with you today. Again, Director of Sales at Trion Group, a Marsh McLennan company down in the Philadelphia area. Great to talk with you, and I'm hoping we'll see you up at an Army football game this year.
Well, if we're having them, I'm there.
So will we. And
Right.
It's great to see, and great. You had some really good points for our audience, both in the business and veterans community. Good to see you. This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services Talking Business, and also for our Sons of the American Legion Veterans Interview Series. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you for watching. All set.
Okay.
How was that for you? Did I cover?
Yeah, it's great.
Points?